Hello and welcome to ClapperCast. I'm your host as always, Carson Tamar, and today on a special bonus episode of the podcast, Paul Price joins the show to discuss Saltburn. Set in 2006, Saltburn follows a young student named Oliver who starts attending Oxford University and becomes friends with another boy named Felix who invites Oliver to stay at his house over the summer, known as Saltburn. Saltburn is Emerald Fennell's sophomore feature after the release of Promising Young Woman. Did me and Paul think that this was a step up from that film, or were we ultimately disappointed once again by Fennell's work? Find out on this episode of ClapperCast.
You all right?
Yeah, I've got a flat tire.
Take my bike.
Hey, that is so kind. Thank you. I'm sorry I don't know your name. I'm Felix.
Oliver.
Oliver. Oliver, I love you. I love you. All right, cheers, Ollie.
My parents, they've got problems.
What kind of? What do you mean problems?
I don't think I'll ever go home again.
Well, why don't you come home with me? Come to Saltburn.
And Paul, there's no better way to start today than you starting us off, because to be honest, peeling back the curtain, we wouldn't be here doing this bonus episode if it wasn't for you wanting to do it. So Paul, what are your thoughts on Saltburn?
So at the beginning of the year, we did that whole breakdown of like what movies are we really excited about. And the two that I had set aside were the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, purely based on the fact that I really liked them as a kid. And I was hoping this was going to be a new, unique way. And then Saltburn, which I was hoping was going to be like a Talented Mr. Ripley style episode movie with like more focus on the queer aspects. So specifically in the book, it's alluded to a lot more. And then in the movie, they kind of go harder into the queer, but not really about like the yearning or anything. It's still like just a gay character. So I was really excited about that. And then I forgot where, was it Toronto? It was something. It was the first night that it like announced. I was so excited to read the reviews and everyone was like, ugh. And then it got more positive and I was like, okay, we're good. So I go see it a couple weeks ago, actually, for the first time. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, the aspects that I really wanted from this are real bad. And a lot of the things that they choose are real bad, but also I enjoy it. Like, spoiler, I give it 4-star, but I still hate it. Like, I hate it. But I'm like, but the moments I love, you don't really get them in movies a lot of times. That's like line between camp and dark. But yeah, no, I'm curious what you thought. And we'll get into more details. But overall, I am disappointed. But also, there's so few of these movies that I'm like, I let a lot slide that I shouldn't. Especially until we get to the third act, which, you know, once we get to the spoiler section, we can demolish.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting film going into it because Emerald Fennell is someone who I don't necessarily love. You can go back in the archives and see our Promising Young Woman review, our Oscar reactions. We talked a lot about Emerald Fennell, and that's a film where let's say I'm not a fan. So going into Saltburn just from a concept, I was like, oh, not really excited for another Emerald Fennell film. But then the trailer dropped, and the trailer is fantastic. And then all the press tour, and as much as you want to say about like queer baiting or whatever, like, yes, it did just keep steamrolling, and everyone got so excited, and the hype was there. And Paul, you were excited, and I love films that are like sexual thrillers, I guess you could say, maybe in a way, like The Dreamers, or what it looks like Challengers is going to be, when it's that really like kind of twisted fun drama, but it has that really clear sexuality. Like, it's a very fun space in cinema to be in. So I was like, you know what, I am excited for Saltburn. And then I sat down to watch it, and I'm not a fan. Emerald Fennell is 0 for 2 for me right now. Not to fully give it away, but I think this film, very frustrating, very boring. Mixed performances. If you listen to the podcast, you also know my thoughts on Barry Corrigan. I maintain that in Fantasies of Inisherin, he's really good. Outside of that film, not so much. Not a lot here for me, but then you get to the ending, and we'll have a spoiler section towards the end because I feel like we need to talk about the ending. But what this film ends up going and how explicit it decides it needs to be about that, really off-putting for me. Just really kind of soured my whole mood on already a pretty mixed film for me. Some fun moments, good craft. Obviously, the house they got is like stunning. That's not quite enough though for me to love a movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, so the whole film is in, I think 4:3. I didn't look that up, but so it's got this really intoxicating kind of like feel. All of the shot design, I think, is fantastic. The cinematography is amazing. Um, the script, when it's doing jokes, and specifically when it's jokes that aren't the writer's jokes, but within like the character jokes, like them actually trying to make funny lines, or them just saying funny things. Those are great. When the movie tries to be funny in like a ironic way, I think that's where it really slips. And I felt that exactly with Promising Young Woman as well, where Emerald knows good writing. I don't think she's an amazing storyteller. Um, because she comes up with a really great concept and then I think writes a first draft. And I think a lot of times these are just first draft. And I don't think I think she may like correct the overall writing because the writing will be strong, but the story never feels like it's gotten like hammered out. I'm always like, is this the story we went with, both with Promising Young Woman? You know, my biggest problem with that is the ending, and I have my biggest problems with the ending in this. Performances wise, I actually loved everyone. Barry, I think, works really well with the character he has to play. It is a stupid character. So it's impossible. I really feel like he can't play the character. Like inside that character are like, you know, the two wolves, and you're like, that those characters don't mesh up at all. So that's a real struggle for me. But like Jacob Elordi, Rosamund Pike, the woman who plays Venetia, I think Alison Oliver, all really fantastic. Richard E. Grant, even like you know, Carey Mulligan shows up in a really small role, but has some of the best lines. I think losing her actually hurts the movie a little bit. Um, Overall, I think my biggest problem before we get into like the ending is the relationship with the cousin. Um, I feel like that character, and he's fine in like his performance and everything. He was also good in Gran Turismo, surprisingly. Um, but I feel like a lot of basically, if you haven't seen the movie, he's the antagonist as far as we're concerned. He's the one who like sees that, you know, Oliver is kind of a weirdo and doesn't need to be there. Um, but what they do with it just feels very like simple. You like if you see that character and you've seen a movie like this before, you're like, yeah, so they're gonna like have sexual tension, and then there's gonna be like, you know, moments, and he's gonna trick him, and it's like, but he's gonna get back on his feet. You're just like, I know what's gonna happen with you, and nothing surprising happens at all with that character. So they spend way too much time on him. I would be curious. I don't know if you follow on Twitter. There's a guy who like does the whole like screen time. I feel like he might actually have more screen time than most of the other characters in like a very weird way. Um, but you were not as excited about this. So like, what aspects did you like? What was the stuff that outside of like,
Well,
I mean,
you don't need
the
to,
house
yeah,
and
outside of
cinematography?
you don't, yeah, I mean, the technical craft is great. You're really asking for a lot here. I think Jacob Elordi is pretty good. I think, like, as an actor, he is, I mean, I don't know, maybe he peaked with Euphoria. I didn't think he was revolutionary, let's say, in Priscilla. But I thought he was quite good here. Um, you know, outside of that, in the technical craft, what did I like? I don't know if there's a lot I liked. I'm going to be honest. Outside of some scenes being mildly hot, I really like there really wasn't much here to like sink your teeth in because so much of the runtime, as you mentioned, is spent with like the cousin, with various arcs of various characters around Saltburn as they interact with Barry Keoghan's character. I found it just be really off-putting the hostility there. Like it, and I get that it serves a point to the plot and Barry Keoghan's ultimate motives, but like it was such an off-putting, but like in a very strange, artificial way to where it didn't feel like this was like real rich people. It didn't feel like this was a real place, a real lived world. It just felt so artificial in that sense, that it really struggled to like even say like, you know, the performances I like with the supporting cast. I think, you know, like Richard E. Grant is like fine here, but the performance is just giving so much that I didn't vibe with, that it's like in context it didn't do a lot for me when all this film demands to be is the relationship between Barry Keoghan and Jacob, and it just falls to the background for so much in this really weird way, and the logic doesn't really add up, and it's never quite, the connection's never there. Not to, you know, bingo card it as far as ClapperCast bingo, but like if you look at Call Me by Your Name, right, like Timothy Chalamet and Armie Hammer have like chemistry, right? Like those best romances have a chemistry there that I don't feel like these two had. So it's not even like that relationship when they are together is like tangible to the point where you can feel it and you can taste it and you see it and you can, you know, get in with it. It was very just like there really is not much here. I guess just, I mean, trying to stick on positives. I like how you asked that and I just spurted out negatives, but really it is the technical ability that shines, and it shines in the trailer, it shines in the film itself. Like it's a very pretty film, but the substance is just not there for me like at all.
Yeah, no, I think that there are a lot of positives for me. I'm probably, obviously I gave it 4-star, but I with my rating system is that if there's things that I think work so well but something fundamentally is wrong, I rate that as a better movie than is one that's like competent and boring. Like she definitely swung for the fences
Sure.
with this, and I think that like I actually like have things I really hate about this movie. Again, the ending.
Right.
Um but um the aesthetic of
So
2006. Oh, go ahead. I
I
was
was
ju-
just saying, like, so what are the ones that like what really stands out to you as like
the aesthetics
top
of
tier?
2006, the score I think is fantastic. It's one of those that you don't notice until you go and listen to it and you're like, "Oh, this is pretty great." I can remember the scene that we're like listening to. Um the you know choosing songs that you know really well. The moments where he does his manipulation tactics I think are really well done, where you like realize where he's going before the other characters do, and then you get to watch it like a fun magic trick. Great. She also did that in Promising Young Woman. There's a lot of scenes like that where you start here, end here, and you're just watching them like, work people. I do think she can't do that again. Like she needs to figure out a new gimmick because um, Oliver and the lead from Promising Young Woman, Carey Mulligan's character, would be like a little too similar to me, in terms of like their overall just like, oh, I played everyone like the fiddle until I fucked up. Um, and I think my biggest problem with this movie, moving into some of the negatives, is that Barry's character is not consistent. And watching it a second time, I've seen it twice now. There is no like, oh, it's not Usual Suspects or anything like that, where you're like, oh, I was thinking it was this scene, but now that I watch it this time, knowing things, it's like, no, 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 no. It still doesn't make sense. There are lines, there are moments. And once we get into the spoilers, I have one specific reference that I think a lot of people will like connect with. But yeah, I love that. Oh, also, I don't know if you've watched Skins. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Uh, okay, so Skins was this really popular show back in like 2006, right? 2006, 2007. It was Nicholas Hoult, Dev Patel, all these. But what's so funny about it is the final song of the second season, which a lot of people consider like the end of the show because it like changes characters. They use Time to Pretend by MGMT as the finale song. And so I was like, when she played that, I was like, I think she loves Skins. And then there's a plot line where one of the where the sister has an eating disorder. And not only does she have an eating disorder like one of the characters, you realize at some points that like she looks exactly like Hannah Murray, who plays the Cassie in Skins. And I was watching it, I'm like, oh, this girl is like a big Skins fan. Skins is fantastic, by the way, if you're looking for like a new Gossip Girl or whatever.
Yeah, it's on my list.
I know, but it's also funny because like the vibes, the fact that it's set in 2006, I really think she sat down and watched that show like 300 times. Because it's
It was her
very
quarantine binge.
yeah, no, like I
Valid.
think she really was like, oh, what if I just made like a rich version of this? Because Skins is very much about poor people. Like they are, you know, the lowest of society. But no, I just thought it was really funny. That was like one of those things.
Taking a break from the episode, I want to tell you guys about a great sponsor we have for today's episode, and that is Zencastr. Now look, we've been recording podcasts for a long time here on ClapperCast, and in that time we have used multiple platforms to record and edit our episodes, but since going to Zencastr, we haven't looked back. Zencastr is an incredibly easy and free to use platform where you can record both audio and visual for your podcast. No more downloading apps or struggling to connect with guests. Instead, you can share a link to literally anyone and have them join through their browser for an episode to make your podcast dreams a reality. Not only can you record with studio quality visual and audio, but you can also edit in a breeze. We love using Zencastr, and if you want to use Zencastr yourself, let me tell you about a pretty good deal. While yes, you can use Zencastr for free, there are also some great tools with a paid plan. If you want to go ahead and get yourself a paid plan to make your podcast dreams a reality, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code ClapperCast, and you will get 30% off your first month of any Zencast paid plan. Again, let me tell you, I have been through the market. I have seen the different sites. I've seen the different apps. I've seen what everyone is using, and nobody is doing it like Zencastr. We love you here on the podcast, Zencastr. We wouldn't be what we are without you, and we would love to see all of our listeners go use Zencastr. Remember, code ClapperCast at zencastr.com/pricing to get 30% off your first month of any Zencast paid plan. With that, let's go back to the episode.
As far as moving mildly into spoilers, but not quite, there's a bunch of like graphic sex scenes. And they're not, I do appreciate that they're not traditional sex scenes. However, I don't know what they're aiming for. And so I really struggle with that. Like, there's points where I'm like, is this supposed to be erotic? Because it's not. And is this supposed to be like repulsive? Because it is, but also borders on camp. There's a couple scenes that are like funny. And I'm very confused about what the intention is. Her being a, you know, I think straight, rich white woman, really like makes a lot of these scenes feel edgy in a college screenplay way.
It's a white woman's fan fiction, which there's nothing wrong with, but it's giving fanfic. It's giving Wattpad.
We all liked Love, Simon for a little while. We all had our moment where we thought that was a good thing. But that's overall one of my like big frustrations, because like, so I watched it first alone and then I watched it again with friend of the podcast, Chris, and every single time one of those scenes came up, I just turned and watched him because his reactions were hilarious. Like when Barry gets into that bathtub, for people who haven't seen the movie, it's not a real spoiler. He starts drinking Jacob Elordi's cum from him jacking off. And I just watched
Let's be clear though, because I want to be clear because people are lying about this fucking scene. It is not as like intense or hot as it sounds like it is. It's not. It's like in a bathtub. It's weird. It's like mixed with water. It's not what you're envisioning when he goes in the press and he
It
says,
also is
"I
such a
was so
flirty.
proud seeing him guzzle my cum." Huh? That's not the scene that was promised.
You
Sorry.
also like, not to be like, I don't see any. There's like, it's just water. Like you just know it's supposed to be there, but there's no like. But the sound design in that is repulsive, and it's supposed to be. So that works. There's another scene with period blood and gross. It works well, but is it supposed to be sexy? I don't know. Like, how when you watch
I think to straight people it might be sexy.
well,
I think
like Once Upon a
to
Time in Hollywood, and you're like, I don't like feet, but I understand that it's
yeah.
erotic. Those are like, is she trying to be titillating, or is she trying to be like, look at these fuckers? And that's where I'm like so confused on a lot of this movie. And once we get to the ending, sorry, if you're watching this and know the ending, you must be like, get to it, because yeah, no, the ending I think makes a lot of this make no sense, including the cum. We'll come back to the cum. Um, come back to
Save
the
the cum. We'll come back to the cum. Before we get there, I do want to mention two negatives, and I guess the one will lead pretty nicely.
a
First, I just
negative.
want to mention, yeah, right. Um, for fans of the podcast, the summer, we had a little Gran Turismo moment, even though we didn't review it. I have to say, Archie was good there. I think he's the worst of the cast here. I
Funny,
really hated it every time.
I like some of his moments.
I
Um,
literally every time he got on screen was like, "Oh, this sucks." Like
um,
that, it was awful for me.
I liked. And then you can pop back. I liked the karaoke scene. I thought that was well done, and I liked the scene that immediately follows the sex scene, um, where I think that acting aroused, but not like just having sex, is a very hard thing to do. Eh. And he, I think, did it really well. Like when he's like, Farley, will you behave? I'm like, this is good. This is like what I think the movie, that's when it hits the moment of what I understand this movie is supposed to be. Um, and I think that, when we get to the ending, I think that it doesn't connect with the rest of the film, and I think that that's why he also struggles. I think the only character who is consistent is Jacob Elordi's character, and I think that is the fault of the movie. When
I don't remember if it was you or someone else on Letterboxd or Twitter or somewhere was like, all it took for him to get a good performance was the director making him just be the coolest and hottest dude in the film, and that's consistent. Hey, he can do that, I guess. Um, I will say the other issue, and this is going to lead into the ending kind of, and not to like steer this conversation too serious. I want to keep having fun, but like how this film uses queerness is very strange to me. And also like, obviously I think we have to acknowledge behind the scenes and in front of the camera, as far as what we know, obviously, people can have whatever identities they have and might not be out, but like there's a lack of queer representation. This film in marketing defined itself by its queerness, and specifically over, guzzling cum from a bathtub, right? Very like intense moments of queerness, let's say, that uses queerness in a very
yeah,
strange and I would argue inauthentic way, that is trying to seemingly get straight girls to be like, oh my God, I want to see Barry Corrigan, drink his
does
cum.
not have
So
an
then
R
they
in his
go to the
name.
theater. And like, what is it?
It's Barry Kogan. I think
Is
I
it
don't know what it is.
Kogan?
It does not have
Kerrigan?
an R in there.
Well, maybe you should have told me 2 years ago when I started talking about him. He turns in 3 good performances. I'll learn his name. Okay. I don't care. Oh, that's so funny. I like that my one reaction coming out of the Batman screening was, I think Barry Kerrigan's a weird choice for the Joker, but whatever. Um, I'll just say as like a queer person, right? Like, and I don't know if you have anything you want to add to this, and we'll get into the ending here in a moment, but how this film uses queerness and uses that in deception, uses that in marketing, uses that, I mean, deception in terms of the actual plot itself, uses that in marketing, uses that in creating this stance and this queer expression, but not really having queerness present in the process, seemingly. Rubbed me the wrong way, I'll just say. Like, Emerald Fennell, obviously, I think a lot of people have talked about Promising Young Woman. A lot of people have talked about her career and how she uses various topics and various perspectives, kind of in an excuse of like, oh, but it's fun. It's giving Wattpad for me, which I don't have an issue with necessarily, but when it's on this level, on this stage, it's just something that I want to give voice to, that like does make me a little uncomfy, especially when you get to the ending, which we can get into. I don't know if you want anything to
Well,
say there, though.
I will say, like, I think the 1-to-1 comparison with this is Talented Mr. Ripley. And Talented Mr. Ripley was written by a woman, but she's a lesbian. And like that was like a big thing for her. She didn't like want to out herself. But like it's very much her dealing with her own sexuality and things. And you know, I have no problem with the bad gays trope. I find them more interesting than good gays, which end up being like little angels a lot of times. But having said that, I do think that getting into the ending, a lot of it doesn't feel gay. And that's what's weird is like, okay, I guess, spoiler, do you actually think he is gay?
No.
Yeah,
That's like, but then he's like, why is he, spoiler alert, I mean, let's be clear. Why is he like fucking the grave?
Yeah. Oh, no. And to me,
why did he drink the cum?
Yeah, well, I think that this movie, the final shot of one of the versions of even just in her mind was fucking the grave. And I think that she came up with the little stones idea. So if you haven't seen the movie, I feel like it's like very like fine. It's just like a put on movie. But there's, if you haven't seen it, Jacob announces Felix, sorry, let's do character names. Felix tells Oliver about how the family writes the name of a person who died on a stone and then throws the stone into the water, and it is a way to say goodbye to them. I don't know why this is the Chekhov's gun of this movie, because it doesn't. I thought he was going to beat someone to death with one of these rocks. I thought like there's got to be something that matters. No, it's just for the final shot where he's dancing around naked with all their dead stones, which is like, okay. But before that, the most evocative image of this entire movie is him. He fucks Felix's grave after you don't know he's murdered him, but it's like you assume. And I think that makes no sense, by the way. But you know, he's fucking the grave, and then it goes on for a while. And I remember getting my shit together. I was like ready to get up, and then I was like, oh, there's more. Not only is there more, there's like another 30 minutes. And the last 30 minutes of this movie make no goddamn sense from the rest of the film. So basically the plot is that we have watched Oliver say that he is poor, his mom's a drug addict, he's brought to Saltburn because his dad died and he doesn't want to go home, ingratiates himself with the family, falls out with the family once it's revealed just to Felix that he's actually kind of a con artist. He's a little bit rich. And his parents are fine and everything. So then Felix is like, I never want to talk to you again. Then Felix dies of a drug overdose in a maze. And that's literally when the movie like tips into camp in a way that like tastes like acid on my tongue. There's a point where they're like moving the dead body of this character that we're supposed to have fallen in love with, and it's like slapstick. And I was like, what is happening here? It's a completely different vibe. Then he, actually one of the best scenes in the movie, has a fight with Venetia, Felix's sister, in the while she's taking a bath, which I don't understand in terms of like symbolism, because that's the bath he came in. Like, I know there's supposed to be something there. I don't like whatever it is. Then she dies of suicide. Then Oliver gets kicked out of the family, even though the mother still wants him around. And then 16 years later, he runs into the mother just by accident. She's like, come to Saltburn. And then it cuts back and he's killed her. And I'm like, so, and the end of the movie is triumphant. He's dancing around naked in this house that he's always wanted. Except, was that what he wanted? Because I'm going to be honest, seems like a really long time to wait, especially the 16 years, to get what you wanted. Like, there was another rich family you could have, like, infiltrated and destroyed.
No, but he hated this family specifically
Why?
because he was mean to him at school.
He wasn't
So
mean
then
to
he
him.
was, but he was. He, like, you know, kind of, and then he was like, "I'm going to infiltrate your family, slowly kill you guys over 16 years,
no, but
and
like,
then take it."
He originally befriends him, and there's so many. Okay, so like, what you realize is Oliver's like a mastermind, and that's what the movie has you
Presents.
Yes. Except, and this is where I was going to reference something earlier. Do you remember Frozen? Okay.
I do. Oh, I shut up, because I literally, when you said if there's things that don't make sense, I thought that's like the prime example is Frozen and the one smile in it.
Yes, I was literally going to talk about the smile, Han's
for it.
smile. So if you have seen Frozen, or if you haven't, there's a scene where Hans, the villain, falls into the water and looks back at Anna and smiles really charmingly. And no one sees it. It is his moment. That is like, it doesn't make sense within the confines of the movie. That just happens all over this fucking movie, where there are moments where like Oliver's crying. Oliver has like, almost a sex scene with a girl. And then, like all of these where she's like, oh, it won't make Felix jealous and all this stuff. But he's already, all of the things that happen, he's already setting things up to like befriend Felix and ruin his life, which they don't set up enough that Felix is like that fucking rich that you would believe that he would do it just for this random guy. And he does some tactics that I don't think are like slam dunks. He lucks out. Most notably, there's a scene where he acts like he doesn't have enough money for something, and Felix comes over and like does this cool kid moment and is like, hey, you dropped some money. That probably doesn't work. Like, glad it worked. But like, that you're like, oh, he's so clever. It's like, no. Most rich people would not be like, yeah, I'll do that. They'd be more like, Archie's character, which is like so dumb. There's so many moments in this movie. So then, again, Hans, what is the cum scene? And there's a very famous queerish book called A Separate Piece. I don't know if you read it, but so A Separate Piece. And there's one scene where he like tries on Phineas's clothes, and that is the masturbation scene in this. Except, let's get like metaphysical. Putting on something versus ingesting something are like two different like understandings of what like wanting to be them is. And I think that that's the problem. He does not want to be Felix. He wants to be with Felix. And the movie later says, no, that's not true. But everything set up in the movie is that he wants to be with Felix. When he gets drunk, when he's like talking to Felix, he, will say things that are alluding to sexuality. Although the movie later says that was all set up, which, if we're going to go with that and he's a mastermind, then he didn't fuck up the thing with the parents. Like, he didn't leave his phone out with mom on the, he would have switched it to any person's name and, whatever. I know you couldn't block back in the day, but like he would not have it available. He probably would have brought a burner phone. There's so many options.
But what if that's all part of the plan, Paul? What if we're not genius enough to understand his
like,
goals
well,
here?
and that's the thing is like, okay, so if it hadn't done that, what was the rest of the plan? The movie works in a way that like you're supposed to think it's Ocean's 11, but 95% of it is luck. And I think, okay, yes, he waited till Richard E. Grant died, but like you could have gone back a year later and probably Richard E. Grant would be like, take you back in based on what we've seen in the movie. Like I understand they needed time to grieve, but not 16 years until the man died. It's just dumb. There's so many things in this movie that I'm just like frustrated about. And ultimately he murders Rosamund Pike's character after like poisoning her or something, and they do not explain what he did to her. Pushed her down the stairs, except she seems like she gets sicker and also still loves him, so he didn't do something like violent until the end. But why? Okay. What is his ultimate goal? You said revenge, but
it's revenge by like taking the resources that they have and getting them for himself is what the film presents. I'm not saying it's good.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, to me, I thought it was that he wanted to be a part of them. Everything in the movie up till the third act says he wants to be a part of them. Like, he's like, I want to stay there forever. He's not planning to kill them until he gets caught. So
I think he is, though. I think that's what the film is presenting, I think.
No, because you definitely would have taken out, like, Venetia long before. There's, like...
Why would he want to then? But like when he kills, like,
no,
he doesn't make any attempt. Okay, after he kills his husband, right? Like the rest of the family's left. Why would you not try to integrate with them to like fill the void of them needing a son?
They were.
Why would you be like, I'm gonna? But he kills them.
Well, no,
I'm saying like in between. I'm not like yes.
No. But I'm saying like he does, and then Venetia calls him out and realizes that he probably killed Felix. And then he, gives her the razors to where she ends her life. And then says, oh, I need to stay. He wants to be there with them. He does not want to kill them. He only kills them as a last resort, which is why I'm confused about his big reveal where he's like, and I hated him. I'm like, you did? You hated him?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense.
Why did you hate him? Also, Felix doesn't do anything. Like, I think what the problem with this movie is, Emerald forgot to give Felix, like, bad traits. So he's kind of just, like, nice. So when you watch him die, you're like okay.
I think she wants you to feel bad. I don't think she wants to justify.
I know, but
Barry K.
Well, I think that's my problem. Is like it's definitely this is a fuck the rich, eat the rich movie written by someone that's rich, and I feel like she forgot. So like I think she does give all these sympathies to these characters, and for the most part, none of them have any flaws. Do any of them have a flaw? Like a real flaw? Archie's character just wants to
homosexual.
Yeah. And even then, like, is he? He doesn't like he's very closeted about it. And but then all the faults are on Barry. But then at the end, we're supposed to, at the last second, be like, oh, fuck yeah, Barry. Good work. And I think that's my problem overall. It's like the movie for so long is like this, power play movie. And then they're like, oh no, he's evil. And also he won. And now be excited about it. Like the murder on the dance floor scene, in theory, is fun. But when I'm watching them both times, I'm like, what? And so going back to the fucking of the grave, I think that's where the movie ends to me. Is like, he won. If you had switched it to where she says, you're not leaving, Saltburn. And he's like, no, I wouldn't leave. And then goes back and fucks the grave. You'd be like, oh, He won. He literally took him over, but he didn't want to take him over. He wanted to be with him. That's the movie. I feel like she tried to get bigger. I think she was like, oh, I can win an Oscar. I do like this whole cultural takedown thing. But I think it's a very small film overall. Like, a lot of things happen, but I don't think the other murders need to happen. I don't think, I think all of it needed to be more focused on him wanting to be with Felix and then ending up being Felix is the better film. Whatever this is doesn't connect with what we've watched. You go back, why was there that boy that has autism or whatever it was? The one that's like, give me a number. He's in it so much and then never matters again. But
well, most of the characters don't really matter. Let's be
Yeah.
clear. Like, the family come back, none of them really matter by the end, right?
Yeah. I will say that I do love that. I'm not British, but I watch a lot of British things, and I was cackling that there are 2 cameos in this movie that are for British people, and I was like, yes, and no one else would ever get them. The first is the teacher, is Reese Shearsmith, who did Inside Number 9, and then and League of Gentlemen and all this stuff. And then the other is I don't know how to say her last name, but it's Lolly Adda, I think, and she's the woman who hates her husband. I think he also was in the show. They called it Scrotal Recall for a while, but I think Lovesick now. But anyway, it was very funny because it's all these like deep cut British actors. And that was my moment where I'm like, yes, it would be like, Tom Cruise showing up in like a random movie for a half scene for most people. I was so pumped and no one gave a fuck. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. But yeah, I don't love this movie, but will I buy the vinyl? Yes.
Sure.
Will I maybe even buy it? I don't know. Maybe. Because, like,
I mean, you
feel
could
like-
just turn the sound off and just leave it like playing on your TV, and it would be a really cool wallpaper. I'll
Oh
give you
yeah.
that.
Well, I also think like I would just turn it off at the scene I was talking about. Like, I don't need the ending. The ending
Sure.
is so bad. Especially when they're carrying his body out. And I know we talked about this, but like when they're carrying his body out and they like can't get the curtains closed and then everything goes red and then they're talking about how the eggs are cold. It's bad. It's not even like, it is so from a different, it's like all of a sudden we're in a comedy and I'm like, we're never in a comedy. Why are we doing this?
That was supposed to be the most emotionally devastating part of the film. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely confusing. I think the one thing I pushed back on is I don't think the ending is supposed to actually have us like cheering on Barry as he danced naked through the house. I get like it's edited that way to be more like uplifting and like, I don't know, a girl boss moment for a lack of better words. But I don't think she's actually wanting us to be like, oh yeah, I love that kid. But I agree. I think it's like badly done, obviously. I mean, you kind of said it all. I just think it's like a rough go. It doesn't make sense. I mean, especially like, as you mentioned, when there's a ending that recontextualizes the film, one of the most exciting parts is going back and watching and then seeing all the little moments and understanding them. I imagine rewatching this film, I would just be like, why is he doing that? Because it doesn't make any sense. I almost wonder, like, it almost feels as if there was like a rewrite or they just like want a different ending or like they they've shoved it in there. It's hard to imagine that throughout the entire production of writing or filming, like this is the vision it has in mind because it's so out of left field. Maybe it was. Yeah, a rough one from Emerald. I kind of feel like she needed to call Bo Burnham, her friend, and be like, hey, how do I create like sympathy as a rich person? And how do I like do all this? Because it's just not there. And Bo's like a master at it. So I would say,
which is funny because Bo is my least favorite character in Promising Young Woman. I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, the writing's fucking atrocious and he's not good in it either.
I just mean in terms of like, it's another one. Same thing. Actually, I didn't think about that. It's the same fault twice in a row. It is, wait, if he's so evil that he doesn't care that his girlfriend got murdered. Didn't care. Didn't give a rat's ass. he's not going to be sweet and dancing to Paris Hilton. Like that, those two characters are not together. They don't like, he doesn't drink her spit.
But that's what it means. Is because he seems so sweet because he drinks the spit, Paul.
Oh my
It's
God.
genius.
Wow. No, I'm realizing this is the exact same movie, just with like different coat of paint. Like there's so many similarities. I want to talk about something very dumb.
Go for it.
Okay, 2006, right? You've set up all this, but what does she use?
I was 5.
06.
I was 5. I was saying.
Oh, I thought you. So what happened in 2006, and what do they keep referencing? Fucking the Harry Potter book. Great, cool. It's a fun scene. You know what sucks about that? That book did not come out until my birthday, July 20th. How, at the beginning of the summer, are all these people reading this? And it drove me up a wall.
Well, they're rich. They could get an advance copy.
I don't think you can get an advance.
Maybe
like
they're friends with JK.
No, like, okay. Then you have to, like, have a fucking Devil Wears Prada moment. Where you like say that they're, you know, rich and got a copy, because they're sitting there reading it and they're talking and they're like, the end of summer, and I'm like, bitch, summer ended. It is July, the end of July. And they're like talking about like him having a birthday, and I'm like, when is his birthday? Is it around mine? Like, when is this? Like, it just drove me, because they like have it the whole summer. And yes, a couple people have said they're rich. They probably, it's like, that didn't happen. No, it's that she didn't care. And it's that lack of, you know, caring for these storylines that really drives me up a wall.
Yeah. I mean, she's not a good writer. I know she won the Oscar. I know everyone loves her. Sorry, everyone on film Twitter. She's not a good writer. And I don't assume she will be anytime soon. But you know what? People are disliking this one at least. So maybe people will be like, hey, you just got to start being better. Who knows?
Yes. But.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a big fan of Saltburn, Paul. I mean, I don't know. I want to say you're not, but you also give it 4 stars and are going to buy the 4K edition. So we'll see.
The problem in this, it's just that I would rather have a interesting failure than boring nonsense. And
sure.
I think are we doing rapid reviews, or is it question first?
Question first.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, that gets into our question of the week, where, how am I going to word this one? Tying into Saltburn and tying into maybe, I would say probably the most iconic scene of the film. We're asking the question today, what's your favorite scene involving, I'm going to say, male ejaculation? I don't know the best way to say that. Paul, why don't you, thanks for coming on the show. What is your favorite cum film? Cum shot.
You know, it's so funny because you said this and I thought I would have like a really good one, and then I really went through and it's like we're desperate for like good sex scenes in movies just in general, and I'm actually going with something that I just think of as iconic, less, and it's not sexy. I'm going with There's Something About Mary. Ultimately, when you think of legitimately like common movies, it's usually either in a sexual, like a sexy way, or Something About Mary. And I feel like that's why I'm going to go with Something About Mary, because there are a lot of scenes that I was like, yeah, I guess I could mention that. I'm like, but like A Stranger by the Lake, A, no one's seen it and I want to win. But B, you know, like I can't remember. I just remember it happening, but I don't remember like the shot. I can remember her fucking hair. Like I can see her hair like sitting up. And I know what you're choosing. And it's like, you know, this is very much what is it, Coughing Baby versus Atomic Bomb. You're like, what should we talk about? Go ahead.
Look, so I'm a fan of the film Call Me by Your Name, if you did not know already. And in the film, in the book, but in the film also, there is a certain scene where Timothée Chalamet's character takes a peach and he fucks it, and it's dripping all over him, and then he puts it to the bedside table, and then Oliver comes in and eats it. And I'm going to pick that. It's a good scene for a multitude of reasons. Of course, the depth, the emotional depth and weight of what it represents, representing his bisexuality, incredible filmmaking there. And it's just fun to watch. So I'm going to put the peach scene as my selection. If you have an iconic cum shot that you want to share,
No.
make sure to drop
Reword
your load down in the replies to our tweet or email us.
Carson's like, I'm so alone for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we're also recording this on Thanksgiving. I'm currently missing the Cher Thanksgiving Day performance for the parade, whatever. So like, just know a lot's happening, and I'm sitting here alone at what is it, 11:30 a.m. on Thanksgiving, talking about cum shots. And God, I really hope no one from my work or life or friends or family watch this ever. So with that, let's go to our rapid reviews. Anything we've seen recently that we want to talk about? I have a few. I'm just going to go quickly. The Holdovers, I finally watched. I know you loved it, Paul. I loved it. A new like holiday tradition. So sweet. Paul Giamatti. Let's get him that Oscar. Robot Dreams from Neon. Not to brag, I got my Neon box set, and I know you were excited for Robot Dreams. I was also. I sobbed. Very, very good animated film. And the last one is a weird one. And it's kind of irrelevant because this is being posted on Friday. The Macy Thanksgiving Day Parade. I've never watched because I haven't had cable, but this year it was on Peacock and I threw it on while I was starting the turkey. And I must say, the most camp experience you will ever have. It is genuinely hysterical at times. It is so fun to watch. You will just have like a float for like Play-Doh or something random. And there's this like Spanish TikTok artist rapping on it. And it's so funny to see Al Roker try to like pronounce their names. And then you just get all these random things from these terrible looking Broadway plays. And it's like, it genuinely just, and then like all of a sudden Pikachu's flying overhead. And it's just like, I don't know, maybe this is an experience everyone grew up with. So it's like, obviously, but I feel like people are sleeping on how iconic this event is, and as long as it's streaming, it will be a yearly tradition in my household. So I really was enjoying it, and it shares on eventually, so of course that's exciting. Paul, what are your rapid reviews for today?
So I don't remember why I was very drunk, but I got very drunk, and then my friend was like, let's go see Theater Camp. So I watched it in theaters, and I fell asleep and slept through the whole thing. And I was like, oh, I'll watch it eventually. And my sister came over for Sibsgiving, because she's out of town for actual Thanksgiving. And we watched Theater Camp, and I was like, oh, this is really funny. I think it's like a really well done, like just wholesome comedy. I really loved that. I've kind of like fallen off. I've been reading a lot more than watching movies. So when I look, it's like, oh, the last movie I watched after that was Saltburn. And then the movie before that was fucking Hunger Games. And the movie before that was The Marvels. So like, I'm watching like the big ones and then nothing else.
Look at you, feminist icon, going to the Marvels. What a moment.
I didn't pay for my ticket. I got a ticket to It's a Wonderful Knife to support indie filmmakers. No, actually, it's because my friend already had a ticket and she was like, just get a ticket in a random spot. But the movie theater was almost full. And I was like, that's rude, because what if someone wants to come and like I'm taking one of their tickets? So I didn't. But I gave that a 0.5 star, The Marvels. And then
you didn't like the cat scene?
Oh, I hated the cat scene. I hated the cat scene because you know what? It felt like the straightification of camp. I'm not gonna allow, just because it was campy. Same with the Musical Planet. Something about it feels very like Love, Simon. But anyway, yeah, so that's literally all I've watched recently. But if you like this world, I would recommend watching the Hater.
You mean the world of Saltburn?
Yeah.
I thought you just meant the real world. I was like, okay.
World, watch the Hater.
You like this world? Watch. Yeah.
No, I think the Hater, Talented Mr. Ripley. I think both of those are better versions of this. But
I agree. And if you love this world, this real world, go watch Planet Earth 3. Now airing. It's good. With that, thank you so much for coming on this bonus episode. Paul, where can we find you on social media?
At Price Like Tag on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd.
And you can find me on Twitter at BP_movie reviews, Letterboxd Carson Tamar. Make sure to email us and tweet us your favorite cum shots in film. And we'll be back
You had to
this
add in
weekend.
film. You're like,
Yeah, well, let's be clear. I don't know. Send it to the Twitter. We'll see what happens. But we'll be back later this week for our Napoleon review. A lot of fun episodes coming over the next couple months. We'll get there. And Paul, you'll be joining us back with Michael towards the beginning of the year to talk about your favorite films of 2023.
oh yeah.
That's the year we're in. Yeah. So we'll see you then. Goodbye.